My name is Jan and I will tell you tonight about light and it is called Light Medicine of the Future. It's not a name that I dreamed up, but my good friend Jacob Lieberman wrote a book in 1990 and the book was called Light Medicine of the Future, because that is what I truly believe, that light will be in the future have an important place in the way we heal people and treat people. Okay, so talk about a bit about who I am. I'm an IT person, at least until 2004. I've been in IT for 25 years. I call it 25 years of developing my analytical mind. And I've been after that, or while I was still in IT, I've been switching to energy work and rebalancing, which is body work. Done that from 2000, so it's about 14 years, and it's more about my ability to feel. And in 2004 I was introduced in Samasati color light work by Nishant Matthews, and that really opened me up. It was something very special, and it brought me home, you could say. So it felt very good, and I've been doing it ever since. There's a few things I like to add to this. My clients are my laboratory, and I've done over more than 3,000 in the past 10 years, and that's important because I don't have a research facility. I cannot explore in a scientific way what the working with light brings, but I have my theories and I test them on the persons on the table, and that's how it works for me. There's one big guiding principle. It was produced by a holy man called Saint Augustine in the 4th century, and he said there are no miracles, only unknown laws. And that has always been my guiding principle. Quite simply because if we understand the miracle, we can find the laws that declare the miracle. We can make the miracle happen again. So that is one of my strict driving forces. What I want to talk to you about today is not just light, but also about the body, how it works. The body miracle, I call it. I give you a number. That's 100 with 12 zeros. If I write it on the whiteboard, you would see a very big number. 100 trillion it is. And 100 trillion is the number of cells in our body, in your body. Something more. The number is 7 million. That's the number of new cells your body produces every second. It's amazing, you could say. And the big miracle is that all these cells work together in synchronicity. So they seem to know what the other cell is doing. So suppose you have an injury, a wound, you cut your finger, and the body knows how to repair, how to regenerate that, which is very nice. You know, but the question I ask myself is, how does the body know when to stop repairing and when to stop regenerating? So if you got a cut in your finger, that your finger doesn't grow much longer. Or the other question could be, how does a cell know what he has to become? How does a cell know that he has to be a piece of skin or a piece of bone or a piece of hair? How do the cells know? Well, if you talk to scientists, they will say they know because the DNA knows. But if you ask the question, how does the DNA know? Then they don't know anymore. So something else happens here, and we cannot declare it from a strict scientific sort of background. You know, so this whole system we have that guides whatever happens in our bodies, Um, it's very complicated, it's big, it's huge, there's a lot of information going on all the time. And you know, the good thing is, we don't have to think about all of this. It's a sort of machine that is doing it all by itself. And, well, to cut a very long story short, the body is a very sophisticated instrument with light as its guiding principle. I'll show you a bit of that. Like in the 1980s, Fritz Albert Popp, he was a well-known German scientist. He showed that every cell in our body is, through its DNA, a transmitter and receiver of light, photons. And he said he was nominated for the Nobel Prize. He didn't win it, but he was nominated. He said, light is the language of our cells. And in the world of light therapy, we have said light as the guiding principle and light as the language of the cells is something we tend to call the light matrix. And the number of the magnitude of information that goes on in this system is huge, and it's quantum physics by nature. So it has a magnitude and a speed that can only work in the quantum physics world. So if we go into that in the quantum physics world, the whole model of how the body works, it's not just the body, but there's a layer above the body which we call the energy layer. And even above the energy layer there's another layer which we call the information layer. And the information layer is a totally different world from what we tend to know. If we take it from a quantum physics perspective, the information world is the world of zero-point energy, the zero-point field. Many scientists have written about it, there's many good books about it. And the characteristic of this world is simply there's no time, there's no space. And this is for us very hard to understand because we are very used to having time and space. No time and no space means that there is no past, present and future. Everything is now. So for us it's very hard to be able to even understand this. And the term they use for this world is magneto-electric. You know, we are used to the term electromagnetic, but in this world of information they call it magneto-electric. And if we talk about light, on this level of information, we talk about scalar photons. Scalar means no time, no space. And photons can also act in this world. If we take it from a more esoteric point of view, we talk about things like the morphogenetic field. That's the work of Rupert Sheldrake and the story of the 100th monkey. They found after Second World War on an island in Japan, they learned a monkey to open up an oyster with a rock. And some other monkeys on the island saw what they were doing, what he was doing, and they also started to do it, which was a good thing. But much to the surprise of everybody, suddenly other monkeys on another island, not connected to this island, started to do the same. And well, people have researched that, and Rupert Sheldrake has written a book about it, and the book is called The Morphogenetic Field. And it's a field that we, species, the human race, we have a morphogenetic field. To put it into more simple words, it is more something like our instincts. It is a sort of power that is there, and we cannot really influence that. But it is obviously there. Another issue, another thing in this area, something that the scientists not talk about, is, for instance, our soul. Our soul is on the layer of information, and the soul incarnates with a blueprint. And the blueprint is what the soul wants to express in this life. And the blueprint is a piece of information that is very guiding into our being. And then the other thing in there is the mind, and the mind has its intentions. And also the intentions of the mind is information that determines what happens to us. So that's the level of information. That's quite an abstract level. But there is one thing that makes it maybe more understandable, something I call virtues. In this world of information, different rules apply. Point is, if in the physical world I give you $5, I have 5 less and you have 5 more. In the world of information it is different. If I give you information, I don't lose it, but it builds you. The same is with love. If I give you love, I don't lose it, but you get more. So this is a world with different rules. Sharing is multiplying. Whereas in the physical world, sharing may be losing things. Yes? So it's something that is quite hard to grasp in the beginning. Okay. If we make it more physical, the first layer we run into is the energetic layer. And this is the world of electromagnetic fields. That's what we all know. We are electromagnetic beings, and our cell phones are electromagnetic. Many things that we use are electromagnetic. And the characteristic is that time and space do play a role. There is past, present and future. And in the world of energy, there is again photons. This time they are not scalar, but they act as waves. So photon waves. And in this world we have something that the Chinese have used, or still using, the world of Qi, energy. Or in India it's called prana. There's many words for it in different parts of the world. And then finally, the final layer is the body itself. And the body is atoms, electrons, and other part of that is photons, but this time photons as particles. So not as waves or scalar, but photons as particles. And one of the most famous quantum physicists, Niels Bohr, he said about 100 years ago, he said physical matter is frozen light. That is light that turned into matter. Yeah. And that's he already saw about 100 years ago what light really was and how it affects, the physical material. Okay. If we take this from another perspective and we put information, energy and body in another diagram, there we see a number of things we may know. Like between information and energy we have the world of chakras. Those are energy wheels, come from the Indian world, and it's about how information gets into your energy world. Between energy and body, lower level, we have something also familiar, at least for some of us, which is called the meridians. The meridians are a sort of pathways between energy and the physical body. And there's something very special there that bridges it all. Is something I call miracle meridians. In Chinese world or English-speaking world, they are more often referred to as extraordinary vessels. They are a deeper layer of the meridians. And the point is, light connects it all. Light connects information to energy, and light connects energy to body. You know, I once I've had a couple of discussions with doctors, and they would say, well, you know, as long as you cannot see stress on an MRI scan or an X-ray, I cannot do much with stress. But if you tell me of something that bridges the gap between energy and matter, then we can talk. So I said, well, that's easy. Photons, light. Photons can both be a wave, which is energy, and it can at the same time be a particle, which is physical matter. Well, it didn't help much, but we still don't have discussions with the medical world, but at any rate, light bridges the gap. So, if we start to talk about how light bridges the gap, let's think of it like this way. There's a soul that wants to incarnate, and your father and mother have made love, and there's a nice first cell, you know, where your soul wants to migrate into. But your soul has intentions, the blueprint of the soul, what he wants to express in this life. And the intentions that the soul has are carried by photons into the DNA, the chromosomes of the first cell. And the profound thing in here is there has been quite a lot of research in there that the first cell division only takes place after around 30 hours, which is quite long. And in these 30 hours, the chromosomes of the father and the mother mix. The soul puts in its intentions, and basically the outlines of your life are being built. After that, the cells start to duplicate and replicate very quickly. In about 3 months' time, we become the 100 trillion cells I was talking about. 3 months' time. So that's really a miracle. So what we do when that happens, we build tissues, we build organs, we build the body, and we step into life. And then we are challenged by life itself. And what happens is we develop a mind. And the mind interacts with the soul, but not so much as we would love to many times. And point is that the soul doesn't come only with, let's say, forwarded intentions, but the soul also wants to have things solved, karma. So there's karma, and there is things that the soul wants to bring into life to be solved. Okay, and then we are in life itself. We run into trauma, we run into conflicts, we bump our head into things, and it means that life is challenging. And what happens with these challenges is that there will be unprocessed emotions, because not all emotions we can handle, so we tend to push them away. And there will be limiting beliefs about who we are or about what we can do. If your mother keeps telling you you're not beautiful, the limiting belief may become that I'm ugly. Yes, that's a limiting belief. And that can be very strong. The other thing we do to make life more acceptable and bearable is we go into survival strategies. So we want to live on, but we cannot do exactly as we please. So we don't live, we survive. And we take on survival strategies that really limit us as beings. And every one of these unprocessed emotions and limiting beliefs and survival strategies and habits are intentions that use the same track. Photons carry them into your DNA. So what you think and what you believe and your survival strategies and your habits, they go into your DNA, and your DNA changes position, and it really becomes true. This is how it works. If we put the same sort of picture in a different way, I'll put the cell and its DNA in the middle. And if we take it from a physical perspective, the cells are fed by blood. Blood will bring in nutrients that we get from food. It will bring oxygen that we get from the air that we breathe. The blood will collect it in the lungs and in the small intestine, put it into the blood, and the blood will distribute it to our whole body, and it will bring it into the cells, but it will bring it into the cell membrane. That's the outer layer of the cell, and the cell membrane has all sorts of receptors, and the cell has intelligence, so the cell knows what he needs. So he opens up these gates and lets nutrients or oxygen or whatever, lets it in. So that's the physical side of things. If we take the same model and put it into the more energetic side of things, instead of blood we have light and chi. And light and chi will bring in the non-physical stuff, the intentions of our mind. It will bring in the intentions of our soul. And that's the main thing. But what is different is that chi and light don't deliver it to the cell membrane, they deliver it in the kernel of the cell. So it goes deeper, directly into the chromosomes. Good thing is, somebody dreamed up the name chromosomes many years ago in the 50s. Chromo means colored light. So that's a very good name, because that's where the light comes in. The point is quite simply, we don't only get the good stuff in. If we talk about the physical side, through what we eat and what we breathe in, we also get bacteria, we get viruses, we get molds, we get fungi, we get parasites, we get worms. That sort of stuff. And we get environmental agents, physical agents, preservatives, conservatives, toxins, poisons, pests. So, especially in our modern lifestyle, we get quite a lot of stuff through the blood into our system, which is not good for our system. And it enters into our cells. So that's the physical side of it. If we take it from the more energetic side of it, light and chi, what comes in is things like the emotions and the traumatic events. What comes in are the limiting beliefs that we have. What comes in is the karma that our soul wants us to do away with. And on top of that, what comes in this angle is electromagnetic pollution, like what is created by cell phones, by microwaves, by Wi-Fi, internet, you name it. And if you compare this to 100 years ago, every second we are bombarded with electromagnetic stuff that wasn't there 100 years ago. Yeah. And that it puts really quite a lot of stress on this side of our being. On top of that, modern society with internet, social media, you name it, there's a lot of mental stress. All the hardships of the world are directly on our TV or our computer or our cell phone. So, the point is always, how will you handle that? All the hardships that come from all the world. So, that's not easy. That puts a lot of stress in us. At any rate, it could. Okay, so life has changed and life puts us to the test, you could say. You know, like about a year ago, they were proud to announce that the 4G network has been developed, 10 times as powerful as the 3G network. So 10 times more electro stress in our system. Because that's the price we pay, whether you want it or not. Because even if you don't have a cell phone, this network is all over us. Yeah? Okay. So that's modern life. Okay, let's talk about intentions. You know, intentions are what your soul wants you to express. Intentions are what your mind wants you to do. Intentions are your limiting beliefs. And the point is, intentions are programs that run your DNA. It goes like this. The photons, light, carries these intentions into your DNA. Into your chromosomes. The chromosomes instruct your DNA. And then in your DNA we have 4 amino acids, cytosine, guanine, thymine and adenine. And they just follow the instructions, and in your double helix structure they will change position. And at the moment they have done that, the program of the intention is running, is activated. So give a few examples. This is not an example from myself, but from Bruce Lipton. He wrote a book, The Biology of Belief. And Bruce Lipton talked about persons with multiple personality disorder. Used to be called schizophrenia. Yes? He said, okay, how is it possible that a person with MPD has a migraine as person A, switches to person B, and the migraine is gone? It's the same body, it's the same cells, everything is the same. He did a lot of research, and he said, just imagine that your thoughts and your emotions, limiting beliefs, survival strategies, are like an energetic dress. And what a person with MPD does, he takes out this dress, puts on the other dress with other thoughts, other limiting beliefs, etc. And the DNA will do ding, 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 really change. So, from a scientific perspective, this is really a different person. So, this is a sort of proof. I got even better proof. You know about placebos? Yes. So, for your cells, it doesn't matter if you think you get the medication, because then the intention is there, and the DNA is instructed by the intention and reacts accordingly, and it is as though you get the real medication. Scientists and the medical world could never understand this, but this is the reason. We think we get it. It's as real as the real stuff, because the chromosomes in your DNA really believe it. They create your truth. And another story is about organ transplants. You heard about it? The personality changes that people go through when they get new organs. Well, it's all over the internet, and I've seen a documentary about 10 years ago. It was called Transplanting Memories. You know, and if you follow my story, you can see that if you take an organ out of a person, it's not just flesh and cells. In there are all the intentions of the donor. His limiting beliefs, his emotions, etc. are all in the DNA of these cells. So people receive the organ, it's implanted in their bodies, and they start to develop all sorts of strange habits that they didn't know. Yes, I even heard that a straight guy who got an organ from a gay guy turned gay. There is stories all over the place like this. You know, some time ago someone asked, how come that we can do blood transfusions without these effects? Good question. Answer is also simple. When we transfer blood, there is only red blood cells in there, and red blood cells don't have DNA. They don't have a cell kernel. So that's easy. Okay, we talked about intention. Let's now talk about light. As Pop said in the 1980s, light is the language of our cells. Our aura field, the energy field, consists of layers of bodies. And each of these bodies, our emotional body or mental body, is a holographic field. You know, holographic field, it's a quite complex, was invented in the 60s, and it's like this. It is written by light, and the tests they have been done with infrared light, and it has been shown that holographic fields can store massive amounts of information. And I always like the example of the Star Wars movie, where through a holographic image they bring up Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know, sort of by a sort of holographic field. That's a holographic field. And point is, the holographic fields we have several of them. We write into these fields with color light. We can do it much better than the scientists have been able to do it. They can only do it with infrared. We can do it with any color. Point is, we write into this field with color, and we read from this field with the same color. Some more important things here. 85% of light that enters into our body comes through the eyes. The other 15% goes through the skin. So the eyes are the major entry of light into our system. And you know, I've worked quite a lot with people that work with light on the eyes, syntonics, quite popular in the US. Many talks with them, and they told me years ago that the eyes have the ability to block a color. Yeah, to not let a color come in. So what's the significance of that? I'll put all the pieces together now. Okay, suppose there's a traumatic event in your life. It is written because you didn't process the trauma, it was too much for you, so your body needs to keep it for you. It is written in your emotional field with, let's say, yellow as a color. Yeah. And you need to understand that the same color that we use to write in the field, yellow, is also used to read from the field. So what happens? To avoid to ever feel the trauma again, because we don't like traumatic events, the eyes decide to block yellow. And the eyes are instructed by your subconscious mind. So your subconscious says, I don't want to feel this. So your eyes start to block yellow. Well, you can imagine that in the whole transportation mechanism with these photons that bring in intentions and everything into the DNA, suddenly yellow is getting low. So you lose your yellow. What is the impact? The impact is that your DNA won't get all the information and instructions it needs. So your DNA starts to falter. And as a result, your tissues, your organs, your body starts to lose quality. Another word for this is degeneration. Another word is chronic disease. Yeah. So it means that your body, your DNA in your body doesn't get the right instruction, doesn't know what to do, and starts to produce errors. Okay, and that's what is the basis for how light works in us. And let's talk a bit about health. Health. For most people, health is the absence of disease. Yeah? But for me, health is much more. It's more than just the absence of disease. So if we talk about this whole model with the light matrix, guiding everything that happens in your body, for me, health is restoring this light matrix to its full potential. So if yellow is blocked, let's give it yellow. It will mean that you have to process the trauma that is stored with yellow, but that needs to be done anyway. So that's for me, health is, amongst other, restoring the light matrix to its full potential. The other thing health is replenishing resources. And I talk about blood, I talk about lymphatics, I talk about light, I talk about chi. That needs to be as high, as good as possible. And health is also reducing imbalances or disturbances. And it can be external imbalances like the toxins and the wastes and the electrostress and you name it. The more physical stuff, bacteria, viruses. And it can also be internal stuff like limiting beliefs, emotions, etc. Yeah? So it's part of the whole deal. So for me, that is what light work is about. And I will tell my students that come for training, next part is bad for ego. Because I will say, with light, we don't cure anything. With light, we don't heal anything. With light, we rebalance the light matrix or the body-mind system so it can cure itself. The point is, if you look at this whole mechanism, the body miracle, the light matrix, I don't think I can do better than that. It's a very sophisticated instrument. It works with light. So what we do is we put light in there so that it can do what it is best at, and that is restoring your health. That is what we do with light. And there is a little bit more. Light can also bring immediate relief by rebalancing acute symptoms. So, and that's important because light is new to people, but if someone comes in with a headache, gets some light and walks out without a headache, they will say, I don't know what he did, but it worked. And they will come back for more. And that's the point with light therapy. It is Basically, it's unbelievable what it can do because it's non-invasive. You don't have to swallow anything or take anything. It's just light that does it. And for many people that is a sort of, well, big miracle. But again, there are no miracles, only unknown laws. So that's why the past 10 years I've been into this, to see what are the laws that can explain us what light does. Thank you.